With US-Russian relations the most tense they've been since the end of the Cold War. Talks to try and defuse a crisis. America and Russia's deputy chief diplomats, their frosty body language not encouraging, and failing to make progress on the issue of Ukraine joining NATO. Russia's deputy foreign minister has compared this crisis to the Cuban Missile Standoff, which took the world to the brink of nuclear war. After the talks, he wasn't sounding compromising.
We need ironclad, waterproof, bulletproof, legally binding guarantees, not assurances, not safeguards, guarantees with all the words shall, must, everything that should be put in this bowl. Never ever becoming member of NATO.
Hello everyone, this is the Up River Crawfish. I'm your host Sankara. Today we had the meeting between the US and Russia about Russia's security guarantees. Apparently the US still is not taking this serious. Well, I don't know what I would say. They're not taking it serious, or more like the U.S. have put themselves in a bind where politically they seem to have no option to respond responsibly. Let's take a look first with regards to Ukraine and Georgia. What that Russia is saying that they should never be a member of NATO. According to NATO's own charter, Russia, Georgia, and Ukraine cannot be part of NATO anyways because they have land disputes with another country. That has to first be settled before they can even be a member of NATO. So the U.S. using this as a ground to die on, as a hill to die on, is just because of politics in the U.S. That's the thing with the U.S. sometimes, is that they think that the politics within America, people outside supposed to pay attention to it. Well, maybe the Africans, us Africans, we tolerate that. But other people don't have to. If Joe Biden was to agree with the Russians' demands, which are very reasonable, as the U.S. will not want the same thing happening in their hemisphere. If Joe Biden was to agree to that, he would get crucified. But that is what's needed. And they're playing fun with this thing. This is dangerous, people. So this situation, Russia is not playing. Russia is not posturing. For them, the U.S. on their border is existential. And the U.S. knows this. The U.S. knows that's why they are on the border. Russia is not worried right now about saying the U.S. having troops, those little troops and some weapons to Ukraine right now. But the U.S. is trying to create a situation where their being around Russia's border is kind of like, how I would say, like a normal thing. They're making a new normal, so that, and this discussion even shows us, so that when Russia says move from near my border, then they can say Russia is being the one that is being aggressive. But they're messing with the wrong people. I think they know this, but I think politics in America has gotten so bad that you would not have cooler heads to prevail. So, what's Russia's options? You know, I was reading this guy, Andrei Martyanov, I think that's his name, Andrei Martyanov. And he pointed out something about Putin, and correctly so. He said Putin is predictable but unpredictable. I would say Putin is predictably unpredictable. And as Martyanov pointed out, is that Putin is predictable in that he's not going to use military force unless it's as a last resort. He's unpredictable in that when he decides to use military force, you don't know where it's going to come from, in what form, how it's going to come about. So for me, I think he's predictably unpredictable. Russia is not playing. There's this talk today. I think there's another talk tomorrow. That one is going to be with NATO. And then there's another talk, I think, after that with the OSCE, Organization for Security and Cooperation in Europe. If Russia does not get security guarantees, they're going to up the pressure on the U.S. and its allies. They're going to up that pressure. So the first thing I think the area I think that will get affected is Ukraine. Remember, Putin said that Russia's response will be military and military technical. Everybody keep going to military technical. It's military and military technical. I think in the military sense of the word response, there will be kinetic activities. That means someone's going to get shot. Now, it's going to be done, as Putin said a year earlier, that the response will be asymmetric and it will be harsh. Right now, the U.S. is thinking that the response is only going to be against really Europe or Ukraine and stuff like that. No. It's going to be a response on the U.S. as well. Let's talk about Ukraine. U.S. have special forces there in the region training Ukrainian troops and providing different aids and weapons and whatnot. Russia's special forces going to start doing sabotage against the Ukrainians. And during the war between the Eastern Ukrainian separatists and the government, Russia prevented the separatists from seizing Mariupol. So separatists only have Donetsk and Luhansk. The separatists in the second war, wanted to push all the way to Zaporozhye. But Putin called peace again. In the first war, they were going to seize Mariupol. Putin called for peace again. Some people think that all this training that the U.S. has given Ukraine is special. It's not special. Ukraine lacks a great operational art. No matter how much tactical training they're given, they ain't going to be any more special than they are. The separatists here, Russia can put them into play. That's one thing. And if Russia does decide to put them into play, I believe that areas east of the Dnieper River, yes, the Dnieper River, going to be in play. For one thing, I think they're going to go down south and seize all the way to Kherson. I think they will get Dnipropetrovsk, Zaporizhia, Kramatorsk. They might even get Kharkiv. But maybe Russia may not want to go that far. What will happen is that they will eliminate forces in Ukraine through covert means. And especially the people who are going to get hit first are those Nazi battalions that are in the Ukrainian army. They're going to get hit. And any U.S. advisors with them, I promise you, the Russians will care not. They will hit them. Russia may also do something to block off Odessa and make sure that Ukraine cannot use that port. That can be an option. Another option to me, and again, another place that I think kinetic operations will come from, will be from when U.S. forces try to come in the Black Sea. Now, it could be more military technical. It could be more on the military technical side. They could disable the Aegis systems on those ships. Now, they did it before, but that was kept on the ground. They just gave them a taste. Russia could make that more public, disabling the Aegis system. And all this flying that the US and NATO are doing around Russia borders, they should be careful. Something can get shut down. And there's not much they can do to respond. There's also going to be activity, I think, in Syria. Right now, the Syrian government and their allies from Iran, from Hezbollah, they are not doing much against U.S. forces. A lot of the reason I believe is because Russia has a hold on them from extending that. Russia can put cost on U.S. forces there. So those are some areas that I think the Russians will hit. There are other areas, there are other things that the Russians will do. And I'll come to that in a bit. I think the Russians are also going to deploy Poseidon, or Status 6. This is a submarine that, I mean, it's pretty nasty. It has I think two megaton nuclear warhead. The Russians going to deploy Poseidon and along the U.S. coast. This is a drone that can be automated to go and sit near the coast, and then until when the Russians decide, they can detonate it. Obviously, I don't think they would detonate it right away, but that's going to bring the U.S. back to the table. That's one thing I think that the Russians are going to do. They're going to deploy Status 6. That is scary. And all of this could be avoided. But the U.S. is trying to act as if to say the Russians don't have a good reason to be annoyed. The Russians, they are people that forget about, everything is put on Putin. It's not just Putin. Russians are very patient people. They're very patient. But go all through Russia history. When they decide to act, they don't fool around. And they're not playing here. The US needs to come to the senses and give the people security guarantees. Get from around the border. You wouldn't have done that with the Soviet Union. Don't try it with Russia. They are deadly as well. So, I hope cooler heads will prevail. Otherwise, it's Armageddon. Well, not Armageddon because the U.S. don't have a response. The escalation dominance is in the hands of the Russians here. U.S. don't have a credible response. Potato bans and iPhone bans and whatever they're talking about is not going to hurt Russia. This is not Iran. All right. So comment, like, share. By all means, you guys comment and let me know your views on this. All right. Thank you.